There are many details that one has to learn or get used to, many adjustments that one has to make when moving to any country, even moving to a different city in the same country. There are all sorts of things that are going to be different, little nuances, different figures of speech. In a previous video on this playlist, I mentioned some tips about how to learn Hebrew, which is very important to be successful here in Israel. And before I progress with more of what this video is going to be about, let me just remind you who I am. This is Shoshana Shir, coming to you from the holy city of Jerusalem. And in today's video, we're going to be following on the theme of some Aliyah tips. And today we have 10 phrases or terms that you'll hear quite a lot in Israel, and just to help you to be a little bit familiar with some of the figures of speech that you're going to hear here. And I'll be throwing in at the end 2 or 3 concepts that are not completely words as such, but further along, if you watch right to the end, you'll pick up a couple of fun expressions in a certain way that are unique to Israel. So before I drag this out any further, let's share a couple of thoughts. If you phone anybody for whatever reason, whether you phone the electricity company, the telephone company, you're wanting to find out some information, and you make your call, somebody picks up the phone and you're going to say shalom, if that's how you greet them. The response that you'll get, for me, is a very beautiful idea, and that is you say shalom and the response that comes back is uvracha, quite often said with that kind of sing-song look to their voice. If we translate those words, shalom is peace, uvracha is blessings, so it's peace and blessings, an exchange of a greeting to one another, a very beautiful way to open up a conversation. Unfortunately, sometimes the conversation is not going to continue quite so peacefully or necessarily filled with blessings, but it's very beautiful that that's how a conversation will start. You don't have to know who the person is at all, and they'll be greeting you with this kind of a blessing. It's very much, to me, sweeter on the ear than just saying hello, or speaking of which, in Israel, if you hear an Israeli answer the phone hello, it'll be hello. Pretty much hello, just with a different accent on the word. Let's go on to the next phrase that you might hear, and that will be, if you say to somebody, to an Israeli, boker tov, the response that will come back to you is boker or. It's a slightly more colloquial version of boker tov, not quite as formal. Boker tov obviously means good morning, tov being good, morning is boker is morning, and then boker or is light, the light of the morning. So this is another greeting that is an exchange that you'll hear quite a lot. Moving on a little bit to slang, if you're speaking to somebody and they're needing to bring the conversation to an end, or end a train of thought within a conversation, you'll often hear them say yalla, which means come on, or let's go, let's move on. Related to yalla, there's a spin on that, which is walla, and that's wow, or really. Not quite Hebrew, a little bit of Yiddish that you'll hear around here quite a lot is nu or nu, which could be what, or come on, give me the answer kind of thing, nu. sometimes it's not so easy to translate these terms. You sort of get a sense of what it means, but it's not always as easy to give a direct translation. There's a certain feel to it. Even if you have the exact translation of the term, there's a feel to these expressions which is unique to the expressions and to living life here in Israel. I wrote down some thoughts for myself that I wouldn't forget these 10 expressions. So the next one that we come to is stam, which literally means for no reason. I don't enjoy it when I hear people say stam just in a conversation, because stam has a few meanings to it. If you've seen a few of my other videos, or you know that my husband is a sofer stam. Stam, when it's an abbreviation of the capital S, capital T, and capital M, would be sofer stam. Sifrei Torah, Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzah. I think it is Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzah. So it's not so nice to hear that people are saying for no reason when there's another meaning to stam as an abbreviation of somebody who's obtained a certificate to write these very holy works, and they're not for no reason at all. Let's go on to the next one, which is chaval al hazman. And really you need to put the intonation in. You need to be saying it with expression in your voice. Chaval al hazman is it's hard to express completely. It's when you're hearing something that's amazing, it's chaval al hazman. I'd like to hear from you how you would translate. If you're coming to Israel, you're going to need to know the next word, which is protectia, and that is somebody who has a personal connection, somebody within their network that they can introduce you to or help you, whether it's going to Misrad HaKlita or any of the other governmental offices, whether it's getting some leads on a job that is available, a new apartment that's available, connecting you to a social group, anything, any area that you're progressing in Israel. They often say it's vitamin P, which is protectia. So keep that word in mind and put in some thoughts upstairs, daven, that you receive the right connections, the right protectia, to be able to succeed and progress in your Aliyah. The next one is a word that's used together with a hand movement, and that is rega, which is a moment or wait a moment. And if you're asking somebody, it could be on a bus, it could be in a queue, it could be, there are all sorts of times that one would say rega, just a moment, and it's with the hand movement is very important. Rega. As a kef is a more colloquial, a slang. Some of the words that have cropped into more modern Hebrew come a little bit from Arabic, a little bit from Yiddish, from a few other languages as people return to Israel and they progressing in their lives. The words that they bring with them from whatever language they were used to and familiar with in the country that they've come from will creep into their conversation and start to get used by others. Speaking of which, a fun story, that something that we picked up in the Ulpan that my husband went to, is that the Ulpan teacher would quite often say, I hadn't heard this expression or this means of communicating so much before I got married, and I went with my husband a little bit to his Ulpan, is that she would start saying something and all of a sudden say v'zeh or v'zehu. What's amazing to me is that if an Israeli is speaking to an Israeli and they saying over a thought, they're expressing something, they're asking something, and in the middle of a sentence, all of a sudden they'll say v'zeh or v'zehu. And it's amazing how the other Israeli will somehow know exactly what it is that the rest of the words in that sentence are supposed to be. I don't know how they do that, but they seem to always understand each other. It's kind of fun when you notice these things, and these are the things that help one to persevere in tough times, is to enjoy the more fun moments, whether it's in the language that one's learning and using, or communication, interacting with others. So the few fun kinds of expressions, but they're not so much words, are the first one I picked up when working in a certain school, the first time I worked in a school, and I was helping a child to start to do some jumping. I think she was doing jumping on a trampoline or something. And quite often, if you're working with young children, or sometimes with older children also, you might count a child to prepare them for starting to begin their jumping or their running or whatever the exercise is that you're wanting them or helping them to do. And in English, it's natural to do 1, 2, 3 and go. 1, 2, 3, start running. Something that's quite, for me, was intriguing, amusing. I haven't quite found the reasoning behind this, but if you listen in Hebrew, they'll count a child into starting their jumping or whatever it is with shalosh, arba, v. I often think to myself, why isn't it 3, 4, 5? If we do 1, 2, 3, why don't they do 3, 4, 5? But it's shalosh, arba, v. Shalosh being 3, arba being 4. The v is and they start jumping and they start running. The next one is, if you ask a child a question and they don't want to answer, or they don't know the answer, you'll often get somehow the Israeli children always know to do the shoulder movement. It comes quite naturally to them, where they learn it or where they pick it up initially. It's amazing to me, but I don't know. I don't want to tell you. Those are a couple of fun expressions. In a little bit of an explanation, I hope it'll help you in your Aliyah process. These were all new to me when I first came here. I had very little Hebrew whatsoever. And with that, I remind you, if you haven't yet done so, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've enjoyed the video, share it with your friends, with anybody else that you know might be making Aliyah, considering Aliyah, or they've already come to Israel and they're needing a couple of tips, a couple of thoughts to help them in their journey. Even if they know these terms and expressions and they just need a little bit of something for chizuk, to give them some chizuk is the Hebrew for strength. Give them a little bit of encouragement to keep on going. That's also always positive. And of course, click that like button and the bell button to be notified when I bring out another video. In case you didn't know it, I do mentoring or coaching. I have had some training in coaching. I come from a background in occupational therapy, and I've merged that into doing a coaching service. So if you're considering coming to Israel, or you've already arrived in Israel and you need a little bit of assistance in figuring out how to make it a successful Aliyah, I invite you to be in touch. There are lots of ways that you can be in touch with me. You'll see on the channel, and also post a comment in the comments below if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to either answer it in the comments or in another video. With that, I wish you a very blessed day, and I look forward to sharing some other thoughts in a further video. Ciao for now.